Hello there, everyone. I have another product review for you. Thank you to the folks over at Artiqo for sending me these oil-based paint pens. And I use the oil-based paint pens for many things in my art. I don't use the acrylic ones, not the Poscas that are very popular right now, I know, but the oil-based paint pens last longer and stick to more surfaces than the acrylic paint pens. So what do I use these for? Well, I use these to finish the outside rims of my resin geode coasters. I'm going to show you that today, and I'm also going to show you some other things I use these paint pens for around my house and what I decorate and embellish with them and how they work. So stick around and let's get right into this. All right, let's get these out of the pack so I can show you how to activate them. Appears they are all individually wrapped. Okay. Here are the medium tips, here are the fine tips. Let me get out one of each to test. All right, I've unwrapped these. I am not going to unwrap all these markers and activate them for you today because that would be a waste. They will eventually dry out like any other marker. So I'm going to keep them wrapped until I'm going to use them. I will use all these markers eventually, so I want to keep them in nice condition. So you have to shake these. Okay, once you give it a good shake, take off your cap. Okay. Now the directions say to do this a little bit to let out the air. All right. And now you want to push down a couple of times. Like, you don't have to ruin your tip when you're doing this. This might take a few times. Oh, you can start to see it moving down. And here we go. Do the same thing for your fine tips. It says to let some air out. Ooh, that's a little sharp. Be careful when you're doing this. Okay. Gently push. Don't ruin the tip. The paint will work its way down. You don't have to get aggressive with it. And this is the metallic ones. Okay, so let's look up close. As you can see, it's very metallic, perfect for what I use these for. And I wanted you to see how you could layer them. It's very opaque, very nice. Okay, so now I've showed you how to correctly activate these markers. I'm going to show you some of the projects I use these for and some of the daily uses. All right, let's get right to it. My main use for these oil markers is to finish the edges of my geode coasters and some other resin projects. So as you can see, here's a poured, dried, set up resin coaster. I'm going to pop it out of this mold. Like so. Ta-da! Now, some of these edges can get sharp, or there might be bubbles on them, or what have you. Now, you can do one of two things. I am going to take my little drill, and I'm actually going to drill this flat on each side and get off all my little burrs, bubbles, anything that's sharp. And then I use my pens to finish the edges. If you don't have a drill, you can just go ahead and use the pen to finish the edges. The oil paint will help these edges not be so sharp if you don't have a little drill like I do. So yeah, let me go ahead and drill these edges down, and I will show you my next step. All right, I went ahead and Sanded my edges. Now you want to have something to set this on because you're going to do, well, at least I am going to do a little bit on the back, the side, and the top. And then I'll set it there just like this to dry. Let me show you how I do that. So where I actually have, let me see if I can pick any of these up on camera. Where I actually have a bubble, I'll shove the tip of the marker down in there and get some color to hide my little imperfections in my resin. So depending on what color you're using and what color resin you have, you might have to do 2 coats. I'll probably do a second coat on this. As you can see, it covers very nicely. Now it's time to do the front, and I'm going to be a little more careful with the front because that's the side you see. And I will do little patterns just to make it look like an actual geode. Okay, so that is how I finish my geode coasters. And you can also, let's say you just had a layer in here that did not look right. Well, you can take a white, a green, a gold, a silver, and you can make lines that make layers of a geode if you've messed up your resin in some way. So I've had to correct other mistakes with these markers before too. But yeah, this is one of my popular items that I sell a lot of. And I go through these markers a lot. Like, I'm not too worried about what the back looks like. It's just a nice little line. But on the front, you can have all kinds of fun to finish your geodes. Okay, application number 2. This is my crossbow. If you are a hunter, you know that it is archery season here in Missouri. And I like to name all my weaponry. So this is my crossbow. I haven't put its name on it yet. I'm going to put it right back down here on the end of the stock. I went ahead and made a little template. I am not getting overly fancy with this. This is just so I don't mix my husband and I's crossbows up in the field. So the name of my crossbow is Major Nasty, so I'm gonna go ahead and, I made a little sketch of where I want my letters, but it's almost a freehand type style. Now you can't do this in acrylics because it'll scratch off really easy and quickly. So my go-to for putting names in all my weaponry is an oil pen. I like the gold the best when it comes to these kind of pens, so that's what I'm going to start off with. All right, here's my first layer. As you can see, it covers really nice and opaquely. I'm going to wait for this to dry so I can go back in and do my shadowing and my black. I'm going to let this sit for a few minutes, probably a good 20 to 30 before I go back in so I don't smear it all over the place. All right, please don't judge the markers on my lettering skills. But yeah, so there is my crossbow. And this will last a very long time. And it's nice and shiny. Okay, the third application for this is somewhat like the second, but you can also use these markers on a canvas material. As you can see, this is my crossbow case. It looks identical to my husband's also. So I'm going to mark a TH on the outside so we know this one's mine. I would only use an oil pen to do this. I would not use an acrylic or an enamel on canvas. I suppose you can, but I don't. I'm going to use the white so we can all see how opaque it is on a canvas surface. Okay, I'm going to let this dry for a little bit before I do my outline. So again, I forgot to hit record, but now I'm outlining it. And just remember, this is a textured surface, so you have to be a little careful here. Okay, here are my initials on my canvas crossbow case. This will last a very long time. So yeah, I only had to do one coat on the black. That'll last a long time. White's a little harder, of course. Had to do 2 layers. But yeah, that will be there forever. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video today on how I use my oil pens. I don't use Poscas hardly at all. I know they're very popular. I just don't use them. The oil-based paint pens are what I prefer for at least my resin works. And as you can see, I use them around the house everywhere. But yeah, I think this turned out beautiful, and I wouldn't be able to sell my Geode coasters without them. Anyway, guys, let me know down below if you yourself use these kind of pens, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!